This is a video about confusion, clarity, identity, confidence, and fundamentally it's about how we move through the world, who we choose to be and how we choose to be it in the world. I am 38 years old, and in my 38 years I've lived a lot of different lives. I've been in multiple industries in business. I've lived on multiple continents, in multiple countries, on 5 islands now. I've been very deep into a number of different kind of worlds, from business in different ways to spirituality in different ways. I've been down multiple different kind of rabbit holes within spirituality and different practices and modalities of accessing what every religion in the world is referring to as God, oneness, the divine. I have been deep in the fasting community and lived amongst fruit-only eating people on beaches in Thailand. And now I'm in Africa. For the last 2 years I've been living in Zanzibar. And if you are watching this, you're probably curious about, the title probably drew you in. Somebody who's founded 8 different businesses. It may even be more, actually. If you go on Companies House, you'll see 30 something, but most of those were just SPVs that were never used, so don't take that into account. I've also known what it is and who I am in this world for a really long time and really struggled to actually fully be it. I find myself being able to deeply relate to the kind of struggling artist, the musician who just hasn't been found yet, hasn't managed to get their platform or get their break or whatever that may be, the writer who's written a book, which I have, and now when you're writing a book, for example, you kind of think finishing it, getting it to the point that you can get it to as an inexperienced author, before editing and so on. You think that there's going to be some kind of big event afterwards, and suddenly the right people are just going to come around and know that you're ready for them, and you realize after a while, and after many different adventures in the world, in business, in life, in cultures, you realize that everything's just happening and everyone is just doing what they're doing, and that there's never anywhere to get to. There's no big events in our lives that are suddenly going to change everything. Everyone thinks that money's going to change everything and that a lottery win is the way and I can't tell you how little any of that stuff kind of matters. It matters, we need it, obviously, but in terms of who we're being in our day-to-day lives, the conversation that's happening between our ears, the reality that we're perceiving through the lens that we're continually curating through what we allow into our consciousness and through what we eat and through what we are saying to ourselves when we're on our own, on a walk or whatever. That's all that really matters, because that's the origin point. That's the center of your reality, of your consciousness, of my reality, of my consciousness. So how I'm perceiving myself, how I'm perceiving others, how I'm perceiving the world, all of that really matters to what my inner dialogue's like, and therefore what I say, and therefore who I show up as. I want to talk to you because this is the hardest thing that any of us are ever going to do, is get all that in check. And I'm not speaking to you as somebody who's completely nailed it, but I am speaking to you as somebody who's been on a lot of different rides in life, experienced a lot of different things, and somebody who has struggled with joy in their life, struggled with stability, struggled with consistency. And what I can say for sure is that it's everything to do with core identity, everything to do with how I'm perceiving myself and how I'm perceiving the world and how I'm perceiving my place in the world. Everything stems from that. And why I'm so sure of that is because, one, my own experiences have shown me that when I feel deeply in alignment and I move from a place of just, this is obvious and this is clear and this is the natural way that I'm supposed to go right now, magic happens. The world, it's like the world conspires for me. It's remarkable what can happen. I've written about it in my book, which isn't out just yet, but maybe by the time you watch this, it will be. But I've had so many times when I've been trying to tell myself what I want to see happen, how I want to see it happen, and then I work towards it, and nothing's happened. I've just finished one thing and then on to the next, or I found myself getting to the end of a particular creation phase of a project and then going, like it's almost like you fall off a cliff. Like, what's next? Like, there's nothing. And I found myself in that nothing place so many times I can't even tell you. I think so many people in this world, we think that there's a career for us. We think that there's a ladder that we get to climb within that career. We think that there's a kind of path. There's always a path, but we think that it's going to be kind of linear. And that's what we're trained to think, right? Through the outdated systems that have educated most people in a lot of nonsense. But the truth is that reality is just happening. And in every single interaction, in every single moment, in every single situation, what's actually happening is a conversation between you and you. Whether it's an event that's happening and it affects you in some way, how it affects you and how you respond to it is all down to your relationship with you. It's your relationship with what you're perceiving in your mind about the thing. It's nothing really to do with the thing. The thing's just happening. You can make it right or wrong, good or bad, doesn't matter. It's happening. How are you choosing to respond? And that's entirely yours. But you're never going to find the correct response for you to anything if you're noisy all the time, if you're taking in loads and loads of information from your phone, if you're constantly being distracted by men or women or money or trying to get somewhere or your career or some kind of thing that's like outside of you. You're never going to have the experience of flow. You're never going to have that experience of sustained enjoyment, because you're making it about something else. I have spent the last 5 years developing an ecosystem called Nourish. And probably 4 or 5 times throughout those 5 years, I've experienced times when I've specifically been moving towards something that's like been in a creative vibe. And either for example, there was one time where one of the projects in the ecosystem was like guaranteed funded. I'd had an investor already agree to invest, and me and my team, we developed an MVP for him to have an experience. This is in, can I give it away? Yeah, I'll give away the general space it's in, adventure travel. We gave him a one-day experience of what we would do at scale, and put 3 weeks of like 12 to 18 hour days in, like bang, 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 got the whole thing done, and a whole bunch of material for him as an investor as well finished. And gave him a day that at the end of it, while he was literally crying, he was saying, that was the best day of my life. Like, I don't know how you guys have done what you've done, but that was phenomenal. Only then the next day to call me from the airport and say, dude, I'm literally on my way back to New York. My biggest client has just pulled out, and so I need my liquidity right now. And at the same time, have a personal client, a one-on-one client, ghost me after, on the phone being all good. This guy had wanted to work with me a year previously, didn't have the money. He'd had his whole fortune kind of wiped out. Got back in touch a year later. We had a few really great calls though, and got back in touch a year later and said, hey, I'm ready now, let's go. We had a 20-minute call just to tune back in and tee everything up, and went really well. And then he was away, and then he just disappeared. So at that point in my life, a bunch of other stuff also, several people also passed away. It was a very tumultuous time in my life. There was other things as well. Now, that was a point where so many things had built up because I was in a lot of resistance. I was very, very stressed for the 2 years probably building up to this particular phase, this 6 weeks or so period. That I hadn't been processing properly. Not for the want of trying, I just hadn't been able to. Life hadn't given me the space, free, whatever it may be. So I'd had all this energy kind of build up, and then bang, 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 life slapped me. And I could have, and I thought about it, I really could have checked out at that point. I'd had some pretty tough things happen in my life, speaking about the title of this video, I've been in multiple industries, done multiple things, had some success, and one particular very significant success before it got sabotaged from an external party, which then forced me into bankruptcy and with that came death threats. That there was a lot of crazy stuff around that was incredibly challenging to deal with, and not my fault. You could say my responsibility, certainly my responsibility in handling the after effects, but certainly not my fault in terms of how it happened. My response to that whole period, and then this second period as well that I've just spoken to, was probably as good as it could have been, but also not great. And in hindsight, I kind of just ran away from life. I just needed to get away from everything. It was everything was too much at that point. Having invested 2.5 years of my life and been not earning much money for a lot of that period, and then starting to earn money, and then things starting to go really well, and then crazy success, all the rest of it, to then kind of fall straight off of that was brutal, with everything that came with it too, especially because of the way that it happened. A lot of deceit, a lot of mistrust, a lot of just wait, what? That kind of rug pull type feeling. When you've had rug pulls happen, you have to learn how to just be okay in your own space, because you don't know what's going to get taken away when life does those rug pulls. You don't know how much of what you've been living actually was built on kind of false architecture. And I think because we live in such a busy, hectic, overstimulated reality, where we can look at our phones and lose half an hour so easily for most people, lose an hour probably for most people. When we live in that kind of a reality, it's no wonder that when we start wanting to live a life that's actually more aligned, things have to fall away. Because we've built things on architecture that wasn't ours, belief systems that weren't ours, reality perceptive views, lenses that were never ours. They were just given to us through a challenge or through a reaction to trauma, or a false belief system that we grew up with in our families or in our even churches and other religious spaces, And life, if you are sincere about living fully, is going to chip and chip and chip and chip and chip away at everything that's not you, the real you. And if you don't let it fall away, whatever's being asked to fall away as the chips come in, if you don't just get out of its way and allow it to, you'll suffer, because you're battling what's wanting to happen. And we're all going to do that at some point. We're all going to have periods of suffering, but how long suffering has to last is our choice. And it's a choice presupposed upon the choice to allow ourselves to feel deeply. We're numbed. We're numbed by everything on our phones, by most of the institutions that exist these days that haven't got a clue what to do with, we're having panic attacks diagnosed as a medical problem now. And it's just like, oh God, no, it's just a symptom of evolutionary lag, which is a symptom of us being probably far too cerebral for far too long. That's how I would diagnose the current state of the world. We've been taught that knowledge is power, and so lots of people have gone out and found certain knowledge which has given them certain powers. But the real power is us as humanity tuning in to our hearts, to our guts, and allowing our hearts and our guts to inform the space from which we allow ourselves to receive information in our minds. And when we have all of these three energy centers, the sacral, the heart, and the mind, the crown, in harmony, that's when life flows. That's when reality opens up. That's when things start to get more interesting. That's when doors start opening that we didn't even know were there. That's when people start finding us that we didn't even know could exist. I remember one time a year or two ago, I was sitting in a restaurant actually next door to where I'm living now. And I got invited over to this table, and it was a bunch of people that I only knew one other people there, and a bunch of people that I hadn't met before. And I'm talking to this guy next to me, and he owns a hotel on the other side of the island. And once we kind of finished talking, the woman sitting opposite us, she starts asking me questions. She's so curious. I mentioned I'm creating a TV show. I mentioned all this stuff around Nourish. And she was very, very curious. And at one point I stopped her. I was just like, why are you so curious? You're asking very particular kinds of questions. And I won't give away like who she was, but she goes, oh, I used to be for 8 years, I was the managing director of the biggest reality TV show in X country. And she said, now I'm their legal counsel and business advisor. And I was just like, there's no way there's not some kind of perfect, beautiful, divine intelligence operating through reality where I'm sitting in a restaurant in a fishing village, a little fishing village, on a small island off the east coast of Africa, and a woman is sitting opposite me right now that has a set of skills that are profoundly valuable to me. Not right now, like the timing was off in terms of when we get to connect, but we had just exchanged details, and I was like, listen, I'm going to be in touch at some point because this is too perfect. And she was like, I agree, definitely get in touch with me. Your project sounds really exciting. You're exciting, let's go. You can't be available for those kinds of connections and actually capitalize on them. And I don't mean leap on them and extract them, try and get everything you can from them, but be present with them. You cannot experience those kinds of synchronistic events unless you're here, unless you're actually present in your reality and in good relationship with it, both within yourself in terms of your relationship with others, and in terms of yourself in your relationship with the world. And your gift. I do a process that's a kind of quick identity process. And you got those 4 areas. What is my relationship like with myself? What is my self-talk? What is my relationship to others? What is my relationship to the world? And then what is my relationship to my gifts? What I have to offer the world. And if you can get your current reality version of each of those, what you actually are believing right now versus the ideal and the true version of those, you'll see the gap. And in that gap exists all of your suffering, all of your tension, and everything that you struggle with. But in that gap is also, or rather identifying that gap, gives you permission to work through it. Because once something has the light of your consciousness shone onto it, you can see, okay, well, this is who I'm being right now that's creating this current reality. This is what I believe about myself. This is what I believe about others. This is what I believe about the world. This is how little I value my gifts, for example. No wonder my current reality isn't shining back to me in a way that's actually conducive to me experiencing the things that I want. More money, better relationships, more freedom, whatever it is for you. It's usually the same for pretty much everybody. Versus the truth, which is actually what is in alignment with divine that's running through you, but you might not be in good relationship with it just yet. So I'm at a particular kind of point in my life at the moment where I'm in very good relationship with my gifts. I'm in a progressively better relationship with myself. The various things that have happened that have been quite big rug pulls in my life, if I'm completely honest, have taken time to recover from. I was referenced once by a guy that I used to host men's workshops, and we did a couple of retreats and stuff. And he said, "You're like a whale, you know, you move reasonably swiftly, but once you get going, like you're going, you know, or like an oil tanker, you know, you take a long old time to pull up or change direction." And I got it, you know. Never known how, but always had, in whatever rooms I've walked into, always managed to have a level of gravity that I didn't necessarily know how to wield unless I was in very particular rooms. Some rooms I wielded it very effectively and very competently, and it was very effective. But so many situations I find myself in, and I'm like, I've got so much like energy here right now, so much kind of feeling of power within me. I have no idea how to point it or where to point it in this situation. And that fundamentally comes down to, it's because I didn't have a good relationship with myself. I didn't have a good relationship with others. I didn't have a good relationship with the world, and I didn't have a good relationship with my gifts. At this point in my life, I do. And so this is the first of, I don't know how many videos. I think I'm going to do a video a day, perhaps for the first like little while, 10, 20, 30 days, something like that. Just to get some rhythm. I have a feeling if you've got this far in this video, it's the first video I put up, so if you've got this far, you're probably on a similar kind of wavelength. Maybe you've tried lots of things in your life, maybe you've, you know, climbed up certain mountains, maybe you've realized they're not your mountain, or you fell off of it and you realized afterwards that wasn't my mountain. That's been my experience. The ones that I've been kind of kicked off of or fallen off of, I've just realized they weren't my mountain, and so it's quite easy to a degree let go of the path, but not necessarily let go of the impact of the experience, you know, losing, in this case, hundreds of millions of euros and thousands of people thinking you fucked them over when you've been fucked over as well, is quite a traumatic thing to experience and then try and figure out how to kind of come back from. But what everything that I've learned does, everything that I've learned through all these experiences, you know, and it's cliched, it really is all about how we respond to things. And how we respond is about our relationship with those four things, as I've said. I've got a number of these kinds of tools that I will put on the website that's in the description here. So if you want to find out a little bit more about Nourish, visit the link below. And there's a few tools that I've created that operate through a model that I've created called Optimal Energetic Architecture, which is a very simple 5-stage process that you may think is ridiculously simple from what you see of it. But if you allow yourself to go through it, you'll realize that this is what gives you an inner architecture that gives you the space and therefore response time to actually choose how your reality unfolds in a much more competent way. In a much more easeful way, in a much more peaceful way, in a much more natural way, and in a direction that actually feels like it's who you really are, as opposed to you having to perform and wear a mask in some way just to make money or just to get through your experience of life. So if those are interesting, by all means have a check out. Lots of other stuff coming real soon, including the book, including an app that's trained on the book. That's a guide that'll be available 24/7, and then a bunch of other projects that are in the works, and various different pieces are moving that I can't wait to share with you. So hello YouTube, nice to meet you, and if you've been watching this video, I look forward to getting to know you and having whatever relationship wants to unfold. Cheers.